This is the shocking story of American businessman Richard Hale and his deadly online romance with Anaya Sharma in Dubai, a love affair that ended in a brutal hotel bloodbath. Stay with us as we unravel every twist and hidden detail of this chilling case. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay active on our channel, because you won't want to miss a single moment of this story. In 2018, Richard Hale was at the height of his career, yet felt hollow inside. At 52, he had built a reputation as a sharp and relentless businessman, known in Chicago's financial circles as someone who could turn any failing investment into profit. His days were filled with meetings, flights, and contracts, but his nights were silent. He would return to his penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan and sit alone with expensive whiskey, staring at the city lights that never made him feel less empty. The success he had spent decades chasing had left him with no one to share it with. That loneliness pushed him deeper into the digital world, a place he had once ignored. Scrolling through forums and international chat sites, he stumbled upon the profile of a woman named Anaya Sharma. She looked radiant in every photo, often posing at Dubai's glittering beaches, luxury malls, and rooftop bars. Her caption spoke of ambition and resilience, qualities Richard admired. He sent a simple message, unsure if she would respond. To his surprise, she did, almost immediately. Their first exchanges were lighthearted, but Richard noticed how quickly Anaya seemed to understand him, as though she had been waiting for someone like him all along. Night after night, he returned to his computer just to see her name appear online. The thrill of her replies began to replace the emptiness of his evenings. In that glowing screen, he thought he had finally found a reason to feel alive again. What started as a few friendly conversations soon grew into something that consumed Richard's entire routine. He found himself checking his phone before board meetings, slipping away from dinners to send her messages, and staying awake past midnight just to keep the conversations alive. Anaya always knew the right words to make him feel important. She praised his intelligence, admired his accomplishments, and told him she wished more men carried themselves with his kind of confidence. The flattery worked like a drug, giving Richard the affection he had long craved. Soon, their bond stretched far beyond casual talks. Anaya began to share stories about her life in Dubai. She told him of her struggles as a single woman trying to build a career in real estate, how difficult it was to compete in such a ruthless environment, and how she dreamed of starting her own company. Richard listened with fascination and sympathy. He had the money, and she seemed to have the ambition. Without hesitation, he began offering financial help, sending her money for business investments, and even surprising her with expensive gifts shipped overseas. Each time she thanked him, Richard felt a deeper sense of purpose. Their connection became a daily routine, and Richard believed he was no longer just another wealthy man in her orbit, but the person who would give her the future she dreamed of. The excitement blinded him to the warning signs. For Richard, this wasn't an online fling anymore. It was love, real and consuming. As the months passed, small details began to surface that would have raised alarms for anyone less invested than Richard. Anaya often avoided video calls, claiming she was busy with clients or that her phone camera wasn't working. When she did send photos, they seemed too polished, almost staged, like they had been carefully chosen to create a certain image. She spoke about her real estate projects with enthusiasm, yet when Richard asked for specifics, the answers were vague, shifting from one story to another depending on the day. He noticed contradictions but brushed them aside, convincing himself that distance made communication harder. Friends grew concerned as Richard became increasingly secretive. He rarely attended social gatherings and turned down business opportunities just to stay available for Anaya's late-night calls. His sister warned him that he was being used, but Richard defended Anaya fiercely. He insisted she was genuine, pointing to the heartfelt messages she sent and the way she always asked about his health and happiness. What his family saw as manipulation, he interpreted as care. Despite his confidence, a gnawing unease started creeping in. Sometimes Anaya would disappear for days, only to return with elaborate explanations about family emergencies or sudden business trips. Each absence left Richard restless, but when she reappeared with affectionate words, his doubts melted away. He told himself every relationship had challenges. Deep down, though, a quiet voice whispered that something didn't feel right. He silenced that voice, choosing passion over reason, setting himself on a path he could not escape. By late 2019, Richard had convinced himself that meeting Anaya in person was the only way to solidify their relationship. He meticulously planned his trip to Dubai, booking a first-class ticket and reserving a luxury hotel suite in the Marina District, the heart of the city's glamour. As the plane touched down, excitement and anxiety tangled in his chest. He imagined a life where the distance and screens between them no longer existed, where his dreams of companionship could finally be realized. Anaya greeted him at the airport, radiant in designer clothing and exuding charm. At first glance, everything seemed perfect. She smiled, hugged him, and whispered gratitude for his journey, making him feel special in ways the online chats could not. But as the days passed, subtle cracks began to show. In private, her warmth often gave way to a coldness he hadn't anticipated. She would leave the room abruptly or answer her phone with whispered urgency, disappearing for hours without explanation. Richard found himself chasing her attention, desperate for reassurance, yet every attempt to anchor their connection seemed to fail. Despite these warning signs, Richard rationalized her behavior. He told himself that love could be complicated, especially in a bustling city like Dubai. He marveled at the luxury of their surroundings, the towering skyline, the bustling marinas, the glittering hotel lobbies, and believed they were building memories that would last a lifetime. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. The vibrant city felt isolating, and Richard increasingly sensed that Anaya was not entirely honest. Still, his desire to believe in her eclipsed every doubt, pushing him deeper into a world where appearances were seductive but dangerous. Richard's days in Dubai became a tense rhythm of anticipation and uncertainty. He spent most of his time in the hotel suite he had reserved, a lavish space overlooking the marina, complete with floor-to-ceiling windows and high-end amenities. Each morning, he would wake to the city's skyline, convinced that today would be the day their connection fully solidified. Anaya visited frequently, often arriving at odd hours. Sometimes she stayed the night. Other times she left without explanation, leaving Richard restless and uneasy. Hotel staff began to notice the pattern. Deliveries for expensive meals and gifts came almost daily, and the frequent comings and goings of Anaya and unknown men sparked quiet whispers among employees. In the lobby, security cameras captured fleeting images of strangers accompanying her, yet Richard remained oblivious. His focus was solely on the moments they shared, the fleeting intimacy that convinced him their bond was real. The more time he spent with her, the more he ignored the inconsistencies and oddities in her behavior. Despite his growing unease, Richard tried to maintain control of the situation. He planned elaborate outings, attempting to impress her with experiences only a man of his means could offer. Yet even amidst the luxury, he felt a subtle tension in the air, as if Anaya's mind was elsewhere. Something was shifting, though he could not pinpoint what. The excitement of being together was constantly undercut by a gnawing sense that their relationship existed on fragile ground, one misstep away from disaster. The hotel, once a symbol of promise, was slowly becoming a stage for secrets and danger. One evening, curiosity and suspicion finally overcame Richard. Anaya had fallen asleep after a long day of errands and meetings, or so she claimed, and he found himself drawn to her belongings. Hesitation battled with urgency as he picked up her phone, scrolling through messages and emails. What he discovered was nothing short of shocking. Dozens of conversations revealed that Anaya had been running a sophisticated romance scam, targeting wealthy men across multiple countries. She promised love, devotion, and even the chance of a shared future, all while systematically draining her victims' bank accounts and sending funds to offshore accounts that Richard had never seen. The depth of her deception hit him like a physical blow. Every gift he had sent, every bank transfer, and every word of trust he had shared now felt like a cruel trap. Her carefully curated photos, the stories of ambition and struggle, and the warmth he thought he had felt were all tools of manipulation. Messages from other men detailed similar experiences, each echoing Richard's own journey of hope, obsession, and betrayal. For the first time, he saw the truth clearly. He was not special. He was just another Mark, a wealthy businessman who had fallen for a calculated web of lies. Panic and anger surged within him. The woman he had believed to be his soulmate was a stranger, a skilled operator of deceit. The realization left Richard feeling exposed, humiliated, and trapped, yet there was also a flicker of resolve. If he could confront her, perhaps he could reclaim some sense of control before the situation spiraled beyond recovery. The next morning, Richard confronted Anaya, determined to demand answers and expose the lies that had ensnared him. The air in the hotel suite was thick with tension. Words were exchanged, accusations flying as anger and betrayal collided. The argument escalated quickly, each shouting match louder and more intense than the last. Neighbors complained about the noise, and some hotel staff reported sensing a dangerous energy emanating from the suite. Richard's frustration and heartbreak were met with Anaya's evasiveness and manipulation, creating a volatile atmosphere neither could control. Hours passed, and neither was willing to back down. Richard demanded the truth about the other men and the missing funds, but Anaya deflected, shifting blame and spinning stories that only fueled his fury. She left the room abruptly, slamming the door behind her, leaving Richard pacing the suite, heart pounding, mind racing. The emotional roller coaster had pushed him to the edge, and his obsession with her, once comforting, now felt suffocating and dangerous. Later that evening, Anaya returned, but she was not alone. Two men accompanied her, strangers to Richard, yet exuding an intimidating presence. The dynamics in the room shifted instantly. Fear replaced anger, uncertainty replaced control. What had been a heated argument became a tense standoff, the room charged with unspoken threats. Every movement felt calculated, every glance a warning. Witnesses in the hallway reported seeing the three enter the suite together, the door closing behind them. That moment marked the final turning point. What began as an emotional confrontation was about to descend into unimaginable violence, and Richard's fate hung precariously in the balance. The following morning, the hotel staff grew concerned when Richard failed to check out. Housekeeping knocked repeatedly, receiving no answer. Security called the front desk after noticing the suite's door locked from the inside. When authorities arrived and forced entry, the scene that unfolded was horrific. Blood covered the floor and walls, a chaotic testament to a violent struggle. Richard's body lay near the suite's center, multiple stab wounds marking the brutal nature of the attack. It was clear that he had fought for his life, but the odds had been stacked against him. The room told a story of betrayal, greed, and rage. Expensive gifts, cash, and personal items were missing, as if carefully taken to erase traces of the perpetrator's actions. The luxury and elegance of the suite contrasted sharply with the carnage, amplifying the shock of the discovery. Hotel security footage revealed fragments of Anaya's movements, but she, along with the two men who had accompanied her the night before, had vanished without a trace. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that the intruders had known how to navigate the building without raising alarms. Police and forensic teams combed the suite for evidence, uncovering traces of the violent confrontation and signs of meticulous planning. Every clue seemed to point toward a calculated attack rather than a crime of passion. The brutality shocked both local authorities and international media. Richard's tragic end became a headline, capturing attention far beyond Dubai. His family, devastated and bewildered, struggled to comprehend how an online relationship could lead to such a bloody, irreversible conclusion. The aftermath of Richard's death triggered an international manhunt. Dubai police immediately contacted Interpol, sharing details of Anaya Sharma, her known aliases, and her financial trail. Investigators pieced together a pattern of crimes, discovering that she had targeted other wealthy men across Europe, the Middle East, and India. Her sophistication and ability to vanish without leaving a trace suggested she was part of a larger criminal network specializing in romance scams. Banks and financial institutions were roped in to trace the money transfers, but much of the wealth had already been moved offshore, making recovery nearly impossible. News of the crime spread quickly, capturing global attention. Headlines framed it as a deadly online love affair, with the luxury hotel and the bloody suite adding a cinematic quality to the tragedy. Social media erupted with speculation and outrage. Experts in cybercrime and romance fraud weighed in, warning others about the dangers of blind trust in online relationships. Richard's family faced intense public scrutiny, their private grief broadcast for the world to see. Friends and colleagues recounted his obsession with Anaya, describing how he had isolated himself and ignored warnings. Interpol coordinated with authorities in multiple countries, searching for Anaya and her associates. Every digital trail, from phone records to bank accounts, was meticulously analyzed. Yet despite their efforts, she seemed to disappear entirely, leaving no clues to her whereabouts. The investigation became a tangled web of international law, missing persons, and elusive financial transactions. Each lead ended in a dead end, amplifying the mystery. The case highlighted not only the dangers of online deception, but also the global reach of modern criminal networks, leaving authorities frustrated and the public captivated. Years have passed since the gruesome events in that Dubai hotel suite, yet Anaya Sharma's whereabouts remain a mystery. Some believe she assumed a new identity in Europe, blending into cities where no one would recognize her. Others speculate that she was silenced by her own criminal network, a victim of the dangerous life she had chosen. Investigators continue to follow leads, but every trail seems to vanish into thin air. Despite extensive searches, sophisticated digital forensics, and international cooperation, the case remains unresolved, leaving more questions than answers. Richard Hale's death still resonates as a cautionary tale about the perils of online obsession and blind trust. The luxurious suite where he met his end has been renamed, yet whispers linger among hotel staff and visitors. Some claim they can still feel the tension in the air, a residual reminder of the violence that unfolded there. His family, though having returned to Chicago, carries the weight of unanswered questions and the haunting image of his final moments. Friends recount his fascination with Anaya as a mix of desperation and hope, emphasizing how easily vulnerability can be exploited. The story serves as a chilling reflection on human desire, trust, and the seductive power of illusion. It illustrates how ambition, loneliness, and the search for love can become dangerous when combined with manipulation and deceit. Richard's tragedy is a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that even those who seem invincible can fall prey to carefully constructed lies. For viewers and followers of the case, it stands as both a gripping mystery and a warning, a tale where love turned deadly, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and lingering fear.